Well, this report, I'm thrilled with it, I will say. It combines all of my favourite topics, that is historical data on the Australian people and theorising about how Australian culture and values have changed, and then looking through time to see evidence of that. If that theory is right, then in the 1970s you would see this kind of thing unfold, and that's certainly what we've done in the report. So the report looks at how attitudes to wealth have changed for Middle Australia over time. And a very exciting part of the report is the data set that we developed specifically for this report. We went back through every census that has been conducted in Australia since Federation. From 1911 was the first full census, right through to 2021, so it's 110 years. And we looked at the same question that was asked in every one of those censuses, and that is, do you own your own home outright, or do you have a mortgage? And we calculated the peak house or home ownership point over the last 110 years, and that peak is reached at 73% of all dwellings in Australia in 1966. And the reason why 1966 is important is because people buying homes at that stage were in their early 40s. They probably even fought in the Second World War. They remember the Great Depression. Home ownership represented to them safety and security. It was the be-all and end-all. That was wealth. That is what wealth meant in the 1960s. Since then, the proportion of the Australian housing stock that is owned has decreased from 73% to 63% in 2021. So that 10 percentage points has been eroded steadily over that time frame. There hasn't been any great fall or whatever. And I think that this is because that Australians have been making other choices. In 1966, to get to that 73% figure, there had to be a social structure where women were excluded from the workforce. They were at home, and their job was to raise kids at that time. That changed dramatically after 1966. Women making different choices. People were freed from unhappy relationships, with no-fault divorce becoming a thing in the mid-1970s. How we wanted to live as Australians changed profoundly over the 60s, 70s and 80s. And that meant that we stepped back from our obsession with home ownership and freed us up to do other things. And we started to invest in superannuation from the early 1990s, for example, 30 years of it now. And other types of investments as well have become popular. Even the pursuit of sea change and tree change properties as an example. The point is that we've changed dramatically over the last 55 years, and our idea of wealth has changed. The report comes around to the conclusion, with the assistance of some focus groups that we ran, to the view that the current view of Australians regarding wealth is that it is the freedom to choose between options at different stages in the life cycle, and to have sufficient resources to respond to sudden shocks. Now, this kind of makes sense just on the other side of a pandemic. People would be saying that sort of thing. But the kind of things that were being cited was, if you get a divorce, if you have a major illness, if you are retrenched from your work, if there is a pandemic, as an example, do you have the fluidity, the liquidity, the flexibility to respond to that situation? To Middle Australia, I don't think wealth means some flash house and lifestyle. It means being able to live the lifestyle you want to live that suits your needs at different stages in the life cycle. That is a very different concept to putting all your hopes and dreams and resources into that house in 1966. That's not how modern Australians want to live. We want the freedoms. Women want to work. We want to acknowledge the Indigenous community. We want to acknowledge the gay community. We want to provision for retirement. All of these things are important to Australians, and to me, it's always evolving. Australians are a very fluid, malleable mass. We shift and shuffle and change. We're guided by the relentless pursuit of lifestyle, better quality of life. 1966, home ownership was a good quality of life. Today, it's home ownership plus all these other bits and pieces that make our life so utterly compelling and interesting.